What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I'm making a video today. I'm gonna do a read and respond. As you guys know, how I do. Sometimes I'll read articles and respond to them. And the one today is going to be this article that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, that was written by Peter King. There's been a lot of talk about it, and so on and so forth. And I actually just got done watching a video. I can't remember the name of their show, but it's these three guys. There's Tobin and Leroy that are on camera, and then there's the third guy that's off camera, Robbie. And they do this little, they're actually God, I can't remember the name of the show, and I can't find it anywhere off, right this second. Anyway, but they actually do like work with the Dolphins organization and the other Dolphins media members and stuff too. But anyway, point is, I was watching that and they were talking about it and stuff like that. And so there's some things that I definitely want to touch on. I felt compelled to, put my 2 cents in, I guess, on this whole discussion. Cause look, man, I'm telling you, bro, like, people are going to be sorely disappointed this season, and they're going to find out real quick, the reality of the situation when the Dolphins are not as good as what people think they're going to be. And look, again, man, I've said it a million times. I'll say it one more time here. I hope I'm wrong, but they got to prove it. And if you take the entire picture into account, if you don't just cherry pick data to fucking, suit the narrative that you want, and you truly look at it objectively, well, the data doesn't spell it out, and doesn't point to it. But anyway, let me get to it and I just want to say for the record that the dude Robbie in that show is definitely the only one who's really got a sense of, what's like legitimately going on with this team. He is wrong about a couple things, since I've been like watching, their show or whatever. But overall, he's got a really good beat on the sense of things, and he's definitely got a different, perspective than the other two guys, Tobin and Leroy. And of course though, they treat him like he's an outsider and like he's, just some fucking dumb idiot or whatever. And it's funny because, that's kind of the situation I've always been in. But it's funny how often the outcasts end up being correct. So let's get into this. Okay, so the title of the article is Day of the Dolphin: How Miami Fearlessly Trades Draft Picks to Set Up Success Now and Later. Real quick, so that's the first thing I want to say is what if they aren't as good as what everybody thinks? What if this offensive line is not really that good? What if some of their big pieces end up getting hurt? What if Tua doesn't take that step forward? And what if the defense takes a step backwards, right? What if all of those things happen? Like, I've been saying that they likely will, right? What if that does happen, right? Just think about that. Now, if it doesn't happen, and if they win 10 plus games and make it to the playoffs, then, my commentary is going to be, hey, they won 10 plus games and made it to the playoffs. And, so maybe last year wasn't as much of an aberration as I thought, because they actually did it 2 years in a row. They actually won 10 plus games 2 years in a row, and this time actually made it to the playoffs. But they also have to show noticeable improvement on the offense, because they're not going to get to that point, right? They're not going to win 10 plus games and make it to the playoffs if they don't take significant steps forward on the offense. So that has to go with it. The defense can't fall off. They got to remain a top 10 unit, right? They can't regress. Now, obviously the stats can fluctuate. They can maybe be better in some areas, maybe be a little worse in some areas, as long as it balances out, etc. But they can't take those steps. What if they do? Okay. Anyway, Let's see. This was March 25th, a Thursday night around 10. Exactly 5 weeks before round 1 of the NFL draft, Miami GM Chris Grier sat in his rental Chrysler outside the Residence Inn in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Grier would attend the Michigan Pro Day in the morning, but now here he was finishing up one of the 2 deals that would recast the 2021 NFL draft. Miami's Trade-a-Palooza actually began March 3rd. By the way, and one thing that the dude Robbie mentioned in that video, I'll actually remember to link the video in the comments or the description section or whatever, so that way you guys can click on it yourself and watch the video if you haven't. But anyway, one thing he said is that this is a puff piece. It absolutely is. The reason why it's a puff piece is because he's puffing things up. He's being like over the top. Trade-a-Palooza. The way he's narrating this entire thing. And even, it's the title, How Miami Fearlessly Trades Draft Picks to Set Up Success Now and Later. It's all about the framing and the way you tell the story or, deliver the information and facts. That's what makes it a puff piece. And it absolutely is. So, for the record, Miami's Trade-a-Palooza actually began March 3rd when San Francisco GM John Lynch called to gauge the Dolphins' interest in trading the 3rd overall pick. "We're open," Grier said. "We'll listen." In less than a month, that listening turned into Miami trading from 3rd to 12th in the first round and picking up 2 additional first-round picks and a 3rd-rounder. Then, with Coach Brian Flores wanting to ensure getting an offensive weapon as the spur to move back up, with the driver's seat of the rental car as his office, Grier phoned Eagles GM Howie Roseman from Ann Arbor. And the way he frames it as if, sure, okay, the reality is, it's true, the dude was probably sitting in his fucking rental car when he was doing this, because that's the life of a fucking NFL GM, right? You're always busy, so every moment of the day, you're doing stuff, even when you're in your fucking car, which is dangerous. Hopefully he doesn't do that shit while he's driving. Probably if he's making phone calls or talking to people, it's hands-free, I would imagine. Anyway, not the point. Point is it's the way he makes it sound all grand, right? It's the way he makes it sound like, he's some champion doing like, fighting dragons and slaying dragons or something, right? Like, it's the grandeur that is applied to it in the narration. That's what makes it a puff piece. Let's see. And also because they're not actually as good at doing the things that people think that they're good at. They're terrible with their trades, dude. They get shellacked constantly. Anyway. Let's see. Driver's seat of his rental car is his office. Grier phoned Eagles GM Howie Roseman from Ann Arbor to work out final details on the deal they'd been discussing. Miami trading the 12th pick plus a first in 2022 to move up to 6 in this year's first round. Okay, now let's pause there for a quick second. So, now, back up for half a second. When they traded down to 12, I gave them a ton of credit. I made a video about it, specifically about it. It was like, dope, man. They just picked up, they moved back. That's the kind of thing I like to do. They moved back and they picked up a first round from next year, first round from the year after that, and a 3rd round pick from next year, I believe it is. Right? And yeah, I think, and yeah, whatever. Anyway. So they did that, right? And I was like, nice, nice, nice. You guys know, though, I don't ever like trading up. But let's be clear, though. Let's be clear about this. When they traded back up to 6, they gave a first-round pick from next year up. That means whoever they took, it didn't matter. Even if it was Penei Sewell, right? Even if they took the guy that I thought they should have took at 6, it still cost them 2 first-round picks. So Jalen Waddle cost them 2 first-round picks. It cost them number 6 from this year and whatever that pick would have been from 2022. We gave that up to move back up to number 6. That's what it means to trade up in a draft. That's literally the entire point, right? Is to do so, you have to give up other capital. It depends on what exactly the trade is, and that will determine what the capital is. But that's literally the point. So let's be clear about that one more time. Jalen Waddle cost 2 first-round picks. That is absolutely a fact. Greer called owner Stephen Ross, who has to sign off on deals of this magnitude, late on this Thursday night. Okay, pause one more second. Again, quick there, because a side note point that I want to make is a point that I've been making about this regime in particular, and really the vast majority of Stephen Ross's tenure as the majority owner. He, like I said, he doesn't micromanage absolutely every move that they make, but absolutely he has his fucking fingers in that pie, and he is definitely pulling the fucking strings overall. The one time he did not do that was with Adam Gase. Adam Gase was running the show at that point, and his drafts were fucking amazing. Like, and I want to address one thing, you know, that they said in that show with Tobin and Leroy about, you know, because they were comparing. And I just did this in my previous video. I think it was my last one, right? Okay, so both of these coaches now, to be fair, Brian, you know, Flores and Greer are just going into their third year, right? But both of these coaches or these, you know, both regimes went 10-6. Right? So just on their face, they both have one season in their first 3 years where they went 10-6. Now we obviously have to wait and see how this season plays out before we can compare all 3 seasons realistically, right? But in the differences were Adam Gase did it in his first year. It took Brian Flores until year 2. But why? What were the results, or what were the things that led up to that? One, because he intentionally tanked in 2019. He intentionally made sure the team was bad so they could get a top 5 pick. That's not really a great way to start your fucking tenure as far as I'm concerned. Okay? So that's part of the reason why it took them till year 2. And then the reason why they made it to 10-6 was because of other extenuating circumstances that don't normally exist in a football season, although are likely to exist for the foreseeable future because human beings suck. But anyway, and those being COVID, and then the number of injuries that resulted, etc., etc., etc. Okay, but then additional to that, when you compare their drafts so far, it's not even comparable. Adam Gase had phenomenal drafts. It's not a question. It is just not a question. He hit on 50% of the players or more, and he drafted clear superstars, one of which is still on the team. And in fact, or I'm sorry, 2 of which are still on the team and are the only 2 superstars that are on the team. Xavier Howard and Jason Sanders. So, like, what the fuck? Like, people live in complete fantasy worlds because that's what they want to believe. They create these narratives, and then they will cherry pick information and data that suits that narrative. And they will completely ignore other major factors that play a role into how things are determined because they don't like it, and it doesn't really suit their narrative because it actually changes the narrative. Anyway, let's continue. Steve was very excited, Greer recalled. He likes trades. Of course he does, because Ross just likes to do flashy shit. He thinks that making the big moves are gonna be the ticket to success. By just throwing as much fucking money and draft capital at the problem as you can, that's gonna fucking solve things. And it hasn't worked for him yet, and people are foolish to think that it's gonna work now. Or that it has, simply because they lucked their way into a 10-6 season. Also, and I'm going to say this again, in regard to Tua, dude, I'm tired of people bringing up the fact that he was 6-3 and that he fucking was like 10-5 or whatever, you know, had like twice as many touchdowns than interceptions. Again, if you adjust for would-be interceptions, the dude would have had 10 plus interceptions. If you actually care to look at that stat, with every quarterback, instead of just quarterbacks that are not your quarterback, Tua would have thrown 10 plus interceptions. Logically, that means his touchdowns would have gone down, Okay, so it probably would have been the reverse situation. He probably would have actually done like 5-10. And additionally, he doesn't get credit for 6-3 when a lot of it was bad. A lot of his performance was bad when he got benched in 2 games and had to get rescued by the veteran guy. And like in the Rams game, because they mentioned this in the video that I was telling you about, that I'll link in the description box. You know, they talk about it, and Tobin was like, okay, he only threw for 95 yards, but why was that? It was because the defense scored, and because the defense and special teams was doing everything. Exactly. That's why he also doesn't deserve credit for the win. They got the win, okay, but it wasn't because of him. He didn't have to do anything. He literally got set. It was either because special teams or the defense literally both scored touchdowns, and because the defense set him. He did get a touchdown, at least one, if I remember correctly, in that game. But it was because they set him up on like the 1-yard line. Who the fuck could do, like, bro, seriously, my grandmother, you know, fucking people, she could go in and play quarterback and get that yardage, right? Like, you have to motherfucking have the appropriate context, okay? Like, you, and that's another thing, right? Like, so they kept asking, in that video, they kept asking Robbie questions, okay? And people do this to me all the time. They will get mad at me because I don't answer the question in the way that they want. Or I don't answer a nuanced question with a simple answer, right? Because context is super fucking important. You can't, like, things don't make sense without the context, okay? So they would constantly ask him these questions and then get mad at him and call him an idiot for not answering the very, very specific question that they want him to answer without having, you know, nuance in his response, which is absolutely ridiculous. And I'm sorry, between people who give, you know, between the person who takes the time to give the nuanced answer and the person who gets mad at the person for giving the nuanced answer, it's the person who gets mad at the person for giving the nuanced answer that's the idiot. Okay? So, let's see. As does Grier, since taking over as general manager with full personnel power in Miami 28 months ago, Grier has made 28 trades and has failed miserably at damn near every single one of them. I think that there were, you know, a couple in there, and the move down to 12 in and of itself was an amazing trade. So you can have that, but it was, you know, but his overall record is overshadowed by all the bad ones. And like Josh Rosen, for example, I mean, terrible. And that was a 2nd round pick in the 2019 draft, not to mention a 5th round pick in the 2020 draft. Absolute terrible fucking trade, right? But there are numerous trades like that. His overall record over the past couple years has been trash. They've gotten shellacked. It's ridiculous. Anyway, if that seems like a lot of deals, it is. Trade-happy Baltimore GM Eric DeCosta has made 14 deals in that same 28-month span. Many Miami deals have been done on the clock during drafts, but Grier's 25th and 26th trades left major imprints on 3 teams in this draft, and the impact of the deals will be felt for years. San Francisco went all in to get its quarterback of the future, Trey Lance, at 3. And look, I'm telling you this now. They will prove to be bigger winners than Miami in this whole situation. Miami will be on the bottom rung of the 3 teams involved in this when it comes to, in a few years from now, when we're looking back on it, and, you know, hindsight is 2020, and in retrospect, that's what everybody's gonna say, even though there were a couple of us, a handful of us, now telling you guys this ahead of time. But, you know, people will look back and see what it is after the fact. Let's see. Miami got, and here's why, right? So San Francisco, now, to be clear, again, I don't, you know, I wouldn't trade up, you know, I don't chase players. I would never draft a quarterback in the 1st round, but that's obviously not how things work. But they're doing things at least smarter in the sense that Trey Lance, at least we'll wait and see. But my guess is that Jimmy Garoppolo will still start for them. And hopefully, if they're really smart, they're going to let Trey Lance sit the entire year. Real quick, another side note to that other video, right? So, well, actually, we'll get to it. We'll get to it later on in this article because there's a point made that I will respond to with that. So, with Trey Lance, hopefully, if they're smart, they're going to redshirt him the entire year. Let him sit behind Garoppolo, learn from Garoppolo, get adjusted to the NFL, learn the playbook, et cetera, et cetera. Start, gaining some chemistry with his receivers and with that team. But additional to that, they've already got a team that's built up around him. So even if he did go in day one, which I don't think is going to happen, but even if he did, he's already got an established offensive line in front of him. He's already got weapons on the perimeter in the backfield. He's already got a really good defense that can get him the ball back. All things Tua does not have and has not had, right? Anyway, and I'm telling you, is not going to be the case this year. He's not going to have those things this year either. Miami got receiver returner and craved Jalen Waddle at 6. And again, I'm going to say this again. If they use him in the return game, and especially if they end up getting rid of Jakeem Grant and then, use him in the return game, I promise that is going to be a giant mistake because they're gonna get him hurt. I'm telling you, I hope it doesn't happen. Some people will look at that and be like, oh, you want him to get hurt. No, I don't want him to get hurt. In fact, that's why I wouldn't have taken Jalen Phillips to begin with, and why I think the kid shouldn't even play football, because I'm concerned for his health. I wouldn't do that. That's part of the reason why I wouldn't have started Tua at all last year, because of his health, right? And so, no, it doesn't make any fucking sense, and there is a high likelihood of that happening. Anyway, and Philadelphia got the third top receiver in this draft, Devonta Smith, at 10. And the Dolphins and Eagles, and really the Eagles are, by my philosophy, were the smartest ones in the draft, because they simply traded back, right? So they got their guy, Devonta Smith, at 10, and picked up more draft capital. Whereas the Dolphins first traded back and then gave away a bunch of that to move back up and chase their wide receiver. Whereas the Eagles traded back and got their guy and picked up more capital. And then, the one thing that I'm against with the San Francisco is trading up to go, draft a quarterback, right? But they're at least, going to be putting him into a system already established. And likely won't even start him, at least for a while. Unless, of course, Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt. We all talk about how much the game has changed over the years, but if the passing game has revolutionized the game on the field, the trading game has been transformative too. A cadre of young, aggressive general managers who learn from peers in all sports don't treat high picks like immovable objects anymore. And that's fine, and being aggressive is one thing, but you have to be aggressive smartly, right? You can't just flounder or bungle your way through it. You can't be over aggressive, right? You can't allow your aggressive habits to allow you to reach for players. It can't allow you to give away draft capital unnecessarily. It can't allow you to have a penchant for taking injury-prone guys and reclamation projects and, fucking bet after bet after bet, gamble after gamble after gamble, which is exactly what this organization has done over the past few years, and why it's not going to pan out, because there is too much risk. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure Stephen Ross is in real estate. I think that's one of his businesses anyway. I'm sure he does a lot of stuff. Anyway, my point is that he's a businessman for sure. That's, he's obviously a businessman as his normal go of things. And, and again, and a lot of the other things he does, the charity, the paying for the stadium, those things are wonderful. So and he clearly is a billionaire, so he knows how to do some things right when it comes to business. But it doesn't make sense that with the football team that he owns, he decides to just fucking be risky, so risky, and just pile up the fucking risk. I mean, I guess it's, I guess because even in the business world, it really doesn't matter, right? Like these big corporations that end up going bankrupt, they oftentimes end up getting bailed out, and the CEOs still get giant fucking kickbacks and fucking, pensions and bonuses and shit like that, right? So it's fucking stupid anyway. So I guess it really doesn't matter. These rich people think that they can just fucking, rule the world by throwing money and shit at it, and are just so used to getting their way that way. So that probably has something to do with it. But anyway, like, I'm telling you, bro, this shit ain't gonna pan out like people hope. Anyway, in his 28 months as exclusive steward of the Miami roster, Grier has traded away 7 first and second round picks, Jesus Christ, and acquired 12 of them. Okay, he's acquired 12 of them, so that's 5 more than what he's traded away. He's still traded away a lot. That's a lot of fucking first and second round picks to trade away. That's the first part of the context. But then, what are you doing with those other ones? I mean, their first and second round picks so far. First of all, Christian Wilkins is just kind of okay. So I wouldn't say he's living up to his 13th overall status. They didn't even have a second round pick in that draft because they gave it away on Josh Rosen. So complete fucking fail there. Let's see, fucking last year it was Tua. I mean, the jury's still out on him, and he has a lot to overcome to be the guy, right? Austin Jackson, same thing. Fucking Noah Igbenogany. I mean, these guys, come on, bro. Like, again, to be fair, you got to give them their full rookie terms. But look, man, if they don't meet the expectations, Grier and Flores are not going to be here to make decisions on next year's first round pick or 2023's first round pick. Let's see. Continuing on. I think we're in a different age, said Grier, an unassuming 51-year-old football lifer sitting at a long table on the morning of day 3 of the draft with Flores at the other end. Football has evolved. A lot of general managers are willing to trade now. You've seen that over the past few years. That doesn't mean you have to be a moron in the league's punching bag. It doesn't mean you have to go out there and fucking get shellacked every time you engage in a fucking trade with somebody. Like, you could actually be the one that's smart and does the shellacking, like, at least maybe once or twice. And again, I guess to be fair, they did a really good job, I think. See, and that's the thing, right? Like, in that trade with San Francisco from 3 to 12, I actually would say the Dolphins totally won that fucking trade, because I wouldn't trade up. I don't chase guys. I wouldn't draft a quarterback, etc., etc., etc. in the first round. Definitely not trade up to number 3 to go get them. And the draft capital that they got in return was phenomenal, right? So I would have said that draft alone by itself, phenomenal. And they completely won that trade. But then they go immediately and fuck it up by then trading back up to 6. It's because they're idiots. They're idiots. And they just have to get shellacked, bro. Like, it's just who they are. Let's see. Some of it probably goes back to the Moneyball craze when people started looking at how it's done in other sports. You can never say, no, we'd never do this. We just always talk about how can we make our roster better. There will be some news of the day later in this Monday after the Monday after FMIA. We're in the calm after the storm period of post-draftum, but you never know. Aaron Rodgers' name might appear in this column. It's the day of the Dolphin, though, at the top of the column. A modern general manager in sports, not just football, should have 4 things going for him. He must know how to use leverage, which he doesn't, dude. Like, I mean, I'm telling you, people are going to look back in a couple years from now. People are going to look back, okay? They are going to look back at this, and they are going to say that they got fucking shellacked, and that they failed at trades, and that they got out-leveraged constantly. Because that is the reality of the situation, and that's what we'll prove. And then especially with how their draft classes are turning out, right? In hindsight, a couple years from now, these draft classes are going to look miserable. I'm telling you, I hope I'm wrong about that, but that is what I'm expecting based off of the data that I have, the full context of information. Okay. Anyway, the second thing is he should have one eye on today and one eye on tomorrow. Okay, and that's true, and I'll even go as far as to say that he does have one eye on today and one eye on tomorrow. You can't really argue that. However, you can argue the motherfucker's vision and that it sucks and that he needs to wear some thick ass fucking glasses because he's blind as a fucking bat. Okay. He can't be afraid. He can't be afraid. I mean, that's such a simple thing to say because really at the end of the day, courage is not the absence of fear, because what he's talking about when you say he can't be afraid, that means that they have to be thereby, by definition, you have to be courageous. But by definition, courageous is not the absence of fear. It's just how you are able to handle that fear, how you are able to overcome that fear. Okay. And so it's such a simple statement to just simply say, oh, you can't be afraid. Again, you have to be smart about your aggressiveness. Okay, so sure, you have to be courageous enough to, do things that may seem out of the ordinary or unorthodox or different or, whatever. You got to be able to take some risks sometimes, right? But you can't make that your entire fucking playbook. You can't say that every fucking move I'm going to make is some crazy, risky, fucking high bust, high boom potential motherfucking deal, right? Like, that's stupid. That's stupid. Who knows a gambler ever? If you know anybody that gambles in your life, who knows a gambler that is successful, that is reckless like that? I'll tell you right now, there isn't one, because they get fucked. Because any gambler that's reckless like that is either probably cheating and gonna get fucking caught and thrown in fucking jail, or they're gonna just lose everything. And then they're going to be in debt to the fucking mafioso dude that's going to come and break their fucking kneecaps. Right? So like, no, it doesn't fucking work. I'm telling you. And it's not going to work. And anybody that thinks that this high risk, that this super high risk for the potential super high reward plan all the time is the right plan. Okay, bro, I'm telling you, people are going to be sorely disappointed this season when they don't meet those expectations. And then Stephen Ross is like, yeah, I know I gave you a 5-year contract, but I'm impatient because I'm old as fuck and I could die fucking any minute now. So bye. Later, you guys gotta go. And then he brings in a whole new fucking regime to fucking do his bidding when he doesn't understand that he is the root problem. Anyway. But of course he's not going to understand that because he's a rich white male fucking billionaire and he's been fucking, said yes to for, I don't know, however many fucking years now at this point, right? Fucking 60 years or some shit. He's used to being told yes and getting the things that he wants. And so, of course he's not going to think that he's the fucking problem. Anyway, let's move on. It's optimal to work with a coach who understands when it's smart to play for today and when it's smart to stock up for tomorrow. Okay. Again, another, convoluted statement that really doesn't even make all that much sense, especially because... So, I mean, I get that your GM and your coach definitely got to be on the same page and they got to have good communication and, have the same vision, etc., etc., etc. Okay, sure. But think about this statement. When it's smart to play for today and stock up for tomorrow. Stephen Ross literally brought Brian Flores in to fail the 2019 season. And people look at that like it's some fucking positive. I mean, the world we live in is absolutely fucking nuts. It's not really a surprise to me. That's what I'm used to. But it still on some level it astounds me because it's like people look at that and they're like, man, this dude, He's a fucking winner when he literally adopted a philosophy to fail. I mean, what else do you say about that? What else do you say about that? Not only that, but okay, he's so smart. He told us he has a hand in all these transactions that go on for the roster. He helped decimate the roster in 2019, let alone made active decisions before, during, and after games or I guess before and during games to ensure that they had as much difficulty winning as possible. Again, with player personnel decisions, certain play calls at certain times, the usage of fucking, timeouts and challenges, right? Various different things. You can go back and look at all my, explanation videos or breakdown videos of last year's games. But I'm telling you, man, this very volatile, fucking high risk way of doing business is not going to pan out. Let's see. Greer is 4 for 4. And again, this is what makes it a puff piece. Because he's saying that this dude is lights out, bro. That he is fucking all checks and boxes, dude. This dude is a baller. He's king shit. And he fucking rules the world at everything he does. And that is not even close to reality. It is not even close. That's why it's a puff piece. Because you were very drastically, even if you like what they're doing, you can't say that this dude is fucking 100% on all cylinders and fucking lights out. And that's what he is saying here. He is saying that this dude is fucking unstoppable. And dude, and so much of the media is saying it. The Dolphins are on fire. Greer should be fucking GM of the year and blah, blah, blah. All this other dumbass bullshit. Like, get the fuck out of here. Okay, I'm telling you. People are going to look back in hindsight and shit like that, retrospect, and be like, man, that shit actually was really rough. And Greer and Flores sucked. Watch, I'm telling you, so many people, after they don't have a disappointing season and Greer and Flores get fired, people are gonna and again, just to make it clear, I hope I'm wrong. I hope they prove me wrong, and I hope this time next year I get to be saying, man, they fucking actually did it. And this team did make some fucking, the offensive line stepped up. The running game wasn't complete shit. Tua actually had time to pass to Waddle and Parker and these other guys. It's that they didn't get fucking Waddle hurt by playing him on special teams. Tua didn't get injured. It's the defense didn't take a step. I hope I can be saying all those fucking things. I want to be saying all those things. But, I gotta keep it real with you. That's not how it's gonna fucking turn out. And I'm telling you, man, when that happens, there's gonna be a lot of people that fucking about face that motherfucker 180 and be like, yo, these motherfuckers suck. Why were they ever here? Blah, 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 blah. And of course, they'll never fucking get to the point where they're like, it's actually Ross. He just doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, his owner. I mean, maybe some people will get there, to be fair. But I'm telling you, man, people can be hella disappointed. With Flores as his partner since February 2019, Flores worked in the Patriots scouting department for 4 years before becoming a coach. And he apparently didn't learn a goddamn thing because he's fucking terrible at it. But whatever. And here's how I know. Well, first of all, let's be clear that a lot of this blueprint, again, is coming from Ross. But the last regime, when it was Adam Gase, as we've talked about, Gase was in control. And this is why I've said that it's not that Greer can't do it. It just depends on who he's taking his orders from. And when it was Gase, he was taking his orders from Gase. Gase was the one that had the final decision on the players drafted and the players brought in. It's a fact. That's how it was. That's what Stephen Ross did. And that's part of the reason why he ended up firing him, because he doesn't like that. Because again, he's a fucking, privileged piece of shit that is always, has gotten things his way and is used to being told yes. So when Gase told him, no, I'm not going to tank the 2019 season. I believe in the quarterback that we have. He got fired. But yeah, so anyway, it's not that Greer can't fucking do it. It just depends, right? And it's undeniable. Gase had great, even the fucking draft that he had last year with the Jets. So many people are praising that fucking draft, saying that it's really good and that fucking Mekhi Becton is going to be a staple of that offensive line for years to come for Zach Wilson. Who the fuck drafted him? Gase drafted him. That was his only goddamn draft as the Jets fucking coach. He got even less of an opportunity with the Jets than he got with the fucking Dolphins. The dude hasn't been given a fucking fair shake since, and you know, unfortunate, right? Because, and here's the thing, right? That was the first time that I thought Ross actually finally made the right fucking decision, went and got the right guy, and was gonna finally get his goddamn hand out of that fucking pie and let the motherfucker do his job and not fuck it up by doing dumb shit. And he did. And you know, people are like, oh, but he had down years after going 10-6 and taking us to the playoffs. Flores went 10-6 last year and didn't take us to the playoffs, even with an expanded playoff field. So what was his excuse? Gase did it with a mediocre roster in his first fucking year. But then people want to shit on him for the 2 down years the next couple years because of things he had no control over. The 2017 year was decimated by fucking all kinds of crazy shit that he had no say in whatsoever. He did his best. And then the year after that, it was just injury after injury after injury, because that's how the dice rolls. If he was given one more year, man, and another draft, with his drafting record, bro, oh my God, would he have fucking, the Dolphins would be in such good position, not just for this upcoming season, but for the future, because they would be building properly. They would be building through the draft. He likes to pay his players in-house. He doesn't like to be a big spender in free agency. Okay? People love to praise his philosophies, but shit on the dude for circumstances he couldn't control. Like, get the fuck out of here. Anyway, Greer is paired with a head coach who doesn't just live for today. Dude, he doesn't live for anything. He just takes his marching orders too. Him and Greer are just at the fucking fingertips of Ross. They're both his fucking puppets. Okay? Stephen Ross is running the fucking show. Again, he's not micromanaging every little thing, but even this article shows he gave him from Jump Street a basic blueprint. They followed it pretty much to the fucking letter in year 1 by tanking. Then they got the quarterback that he wanted. And now they're building the team how Stephen Ross wants. Not how Flores wants. Anybody who thinks that Greer and Flores are drafting to build in Flores' image is ridiculous and fooling themselves. No, they are building the team how Stephen Ross wants to build the team. That's why they're making all the flashy moves. That's why they were big spenders in free agency last year. That's why they wanted to go get Deshaun Watson this year and might still do it. That's why they're in conversations for Aaron Rodgers. Okay. That's why they fucking make all these damn trades, right? That's why they fucking trade up to go get fucking Waddle, right? And that's why they take super high risk players like Jalen Phillips. Because, man, dude, again, I'm so tired of hearing people be like, if it wasn't for his injury history, he would have been taken in the top 15. Okay, that's great. But he has the injury history. So let's stop fucking talking about it and framing it as if he didn't. Okay, if he didn't, then we wouldn't be talking about it at all because it wouldn't exist. And he would have been taken in the top 15. And that's all well and fucking good. But he does. And it's serious and significant. He had to fucking medically retire from his college, from UCLA. Concussions are no joke. Although we know that the NFL thinks that they're a joke and think that they don't fucking matter. And we've known that for years now. So, okay. Why would they? Anyway, when I said that in our meeting, Flores said, you mentioned that philosophy, coaches are about today and not about the future. I guess I'm more in tune with the future. When I get into my coaching short-term thought process, Chris pulls me out of that. We listen to one another and have good collaboration on everything, especially the roster. We have a similar vision for what we want the team to look like. And that's cool, but their vision is fucking broke in large part. Again, because at least in Greer's case, I can't say the same for Flores because he doesn't really have any record to go off in that department, because he wasn't, sure, he might have been in the scouting department and a coach for a few years for the Patriots, but he didn't have a say in that shit. Not really. He was a deliverer of information. He was a messenger. He brought information and scouting reports to the guys who make the decision, right? Brady and Belichick and fucking Kraft and maybe the coordinators as well, right? Matt Patricia for a while and McDaniels, right? They make the motherfucking decisions. So Flores does, but in Greer's case, you know, it's not that he can't do it. It's just about who he's taking his orders from. And again, the root problem is Ross. Flores and Greer weren't altogether open with me in how they viewed this draft, but we can infer a few things from it. And this is where the leverage part comes in. The Dolphins sat at 3 in March, but didn't necessarily need to be at 3. They weren't, well, I agree with that. They didn't necessarily need to be, but that's where they were because that's the fucking pick that they got from the Texans. And so, you know, they could have taken, now here's the thing, right? They ended up moving back to 12, moved up to 6, and they still could have got Penei Sewell at 6. And that would have been the smartest choice to make. They could have done that, right? But they moved back, scored big on that, and then decided to move back up to get an undersized wide receiver, a small wide receiver with a little bit of an injury history, just because he's a flashy player and has experience with your quarterback, and they're also likely to pay him on special teams. All right, man. Whatever, bro. Let's see. They weren't going to take a quarterback, and as it turned out, they were keen on a receiver, Waddle, who was not the consensus top receiver available. Jamar Chase was. Still, if they went down to 12 with San Francisco, they knew that to get an offensive threat like Waddle, they'd have to move back to the 8th pick at the lowest, and they definitely wanted to be higher than that. On March 4th, Lynch offered San Francisco's first-round picks in 2022 and 2023 to move from 12 to 3, a very strong offer. 2 ones to move up 9 spots in the draft. And it was, and the Dolphins won that. And then they fucked it up immediately. And then they fucked it up again by taking the wrong player. And look, again, man, it's nothing against Waddle, and it's not to say that he couldn't possibly be. It's just he's not, and people say so much about his fit for this team. Why? Why is he a fit for this team? Because he has prior experience with your quarterback? Why is he a fit for this team? Because simply because people are like, the Dolphins didn't have a lot of explosive plays last year. But why didn't they have a lot of explosive plays last year? Because their run game was shit? Because their quarterback was a rookie who was thrown into the fire that made a ton of mistakes that, when adjusted for would-be interceptions, threw over 10, had to get fucking benched and saved by the fucking veteran? Because the defense actually wasn't as good as people think it is, or thought it was. They showed some flashes and had moments because of the fucking quality of opponent they played. I mean, there's so much fucking data that people just ignore. It's absurd. Let's see. Now the Dolphins knew San Francisco wanted to get up that high to take a quarterback. That offer marinated for a couple of weeks. We weren't going to officially do the deal with that, Greer said, because we knew the importance of that 3rd pick. And with so many teams coveting quarterback, also, they could have just waited to the draft, bro. If they felt like they really needed to fucking move back, they could have just waited until the day of. And then just moved back and shellacked. They could have moved back, because the desperation level on draft day would have been higher. So they probably could have moved back even, 2, 8, or 9 and still got Waddle. They could have probably moved back to fucking 10 and still got Waddle. Because of how the board would have fallen differently, right? And then they would have just simply moved back, still got their guy, and accrued draft capital like the Eagles did. But no, they're idiots and they have to fuck it up immediately. Let's see. And with so many teams coveting quarterbacks in this draft, that's where the leverage came in. but they didn't properly use the leverage. It would have been far more leveragey. It would have had more weight to it if they would have done it on draft day. Especially because then you see fucking Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance then go to, or I'm sorry, then the third pick comes up, and then you still have Trey Lance, who the San Francisco 49ers really want. Okay, and even if you didn't get Waddle at fucking 12 or whatever, anyway, there were other teams that would have likely traded up with you to the number 3rd spot for a quarterback. Right? There's the Patriots, there's fucking whoever else, there's fucking several teams that I'm sure would have had a lot of interest in that pick. You could have traded back probably a few spots, a handful of spots, whatever, and you probably still could have got your guy. Or even if you miss out on Waddle, you still could have got, I mean, again, because, and look, and part of my thought process here is I wouldn't have even taken Waddle to begin with. I still would have been targeting the fucking top offensive lineman in the draft, right? So, you know, I mean, again, it goes back to what your root philosophy is, what you prioritize in your needs. So, and I think that they're fucked up from there. So, you know, and with so many, let's see, Grier could wait for a more aggressive offer, and knowing he had a good offer in hand, Grier could ask around between 4 and 8. When any team want to go back to 12, the Dolphins saw the top of the draft this way. Picks 1, 2, 3 quarterbacks. Pick 4 Atlanta, a quarterback or tight end Kyle Pitts. Pick 5 Cincinnati, likely Chase or possibly tackle Penei Sewell. One player we felt very strongly would be there at 6, said Flores. The intimation to me was that player was Waddle, and obviously it was. All indications, not just the rumors that came out prior to the draft, but it's clear because they picked him. They moved up to 6. That's the guy that they picked, even though there was, you know, Penei Sewell right there and plenty of other players, etc., etc. That's who they decided to go with. I got the feeling Grier and Flores were all in on Waddle, though they never said that specifically. Although, you know, to be fair, when the rumor came out that they preferred Waddle, you could just say that it's, you know, a rumor and you don't have enough information yet and it's up in the air. And this is a situation where it's completely hindsight, and because it's almost impossible to say that definitively, right? Anyway, Grier probably wouldn't move back to 12 unless he could move back up to get Waddle or one of the offensive impact players. So when the initial 49er offer came in, Flores was clear that he wanted what he wanted. Right away, said Grier, meaning right after the 49er offer. Brian was like, if we do this, go down to 12, we need to figure out a way to get back in the top 10. I mean, again, you don't, man. You just don't. But that, again, because it goes back to, and I'm just going to say this one more time. Aggressive, you got to be aggressive in smart ways. And one way is that I think it's stupid to be aggressive is to constantly chase players and move up and chase players. Anyway, we were 100% sure we were not going to get a targeted player, especially Jalen starting at 12. We felt we had to get to 8 was about where we said, but we wanted to get up higher. We weren't real comfortable at 8. We felt 6 was the spot for us to get Waddle. Clearly it was. And I mean, you know, if that's their plan, then they executed it brilliantly. It's just, I'm telling you, not going to work out how they envision it. The Eagles at 6 were the perfect target. GM Howie Roseman loved trading, and he had a reason to want to collect draft capital. If Jalen Hurts didn't put a solid grip on the starting quarterback job this fall, Philly might need to need draft picks to target one of the top quarterbacks in next year's draft. Let's also note, though, that we gave up our pick. So if the Dolphins do shit the bed, then their pick could end up being high. Let's see. Of course, if they end up fucking, you know, going on a rip and fucking, you know, having a ton of success, then it'll be really low, obviously. Let's see. Or maybe even Deshaun Watson. It was a heavy price, but Roseman wanted a 2022 first-round pick from the Dolphins, and he got it. Now Grier knew he could move back into range for Waddle or a strong offensive threat. One afternoon in late March, Lynch was at his daughter's school tennis match, and his phone rang. It was Grier telling him they were close to being ready to do the deal if the 49ers added a third-round pick. That was tough for the Niners, who already were denuding the top of their next 2 drafts to get a quarterback. I've never seen that word in my life. Lynch had to think about it. He knew internally that it would be a tough pill to swallow, but he had a third-round compensatory pick, likely to be about the 104th overall,
very low in the 3rd round, coming in 2022 from Robert Saleh's hire by the New York Jets. A total bonus, Coach Kyle Shanahan called it. And that's the thing. They're like, you know what, fuck it, we'll throw it in because it's not going to be all that valuable anyway. So the Niners, after some thought, agreed to add the 3rd round Saleh pick as the sweetener to push it over the top. Lynch wasn't angry about the late ask for the 3rd rounder. He'd done almost exactly the same thing in his 49er draft in 2017, asking Chicago GM Ryan Pace for an extra 3rd to get a deal done for Chicago to move from 3 to 2 in the 1st round. Pace did it and infamously picked Mitchell Trubisky. I love dealing with Chris, Lynch said Saturday. He's not emotional about it and his word is everything. Chris is a rock. Well, that's great, and he probably also likes working with him because he knows he can get whatever the fuck he wants out of him. And he knows he's going to win the motherfucking trade, even if he has to sweeten it with a 3rd round compensatory pick. Fucking jokes. To me, Greer said, it's never about winning a trade. It's about being open, honest, and working toward getting a deal both sides feel good about. All right, bro. Look, man. I just got to say this real fast. That's cool. And that's, you know, real respectable and noble of you. And I'm all about it, to be honest. But that's not how the real world works. And unfortunately, if you have that kind of naive mentality, well, you're going to get taken advantage of. Do you know how I know that? Because that's how my life has gone. Because for a lot of my life, I was a super generous guy. And I always wanted to be like, you know what? Although my problem is I actually had the mentality of it didn't matter if I had to sacrifice. The way that things should work is everybody involved should benefit. That's true. But that's not how the world works. And so I was naive enough to think that, you know, I could go in with the approach of, hey, I want to make sure that everybody benefits and think that the other people involved also have that same mentality. And that's almost never the case because human beings are individualistic sacks of shit and are fucking selfish as fuck. So you're gonna get fucking fleeced and taken advantage of. And they have. Let's see. There was one other piece to this puzzle. In the first 2 years Greer and Flores worked together, so much of the draft prep and trading was about the future. Yeah. Okay. But in that case, where's the eye on now? Because in year 1, they literally closed whichever eye they had set on the present, they closed it. Sure, they had the eye on the future open and was accumulating a whole bunch of draft capital. That's true. And clearing cap space at the same time. That's true. But what happened to their eye on the here and the now? That bitch was closed fucking firm shut. And they shit the fucking 2019 season away. They intentionally failed the season. Okay. But, you know, we won't talk about that then. We'll just say now that they're fucking brilliant and that they got one eye on the fucking present and one eye on the future. Because they opened the eye that they had shut in 2019, which was the eye for the present. Okay, dude. I mean, fucking paint these ridiculous pictures just to fit your own fucking narratives. Sure. Sure thing. Let's see. Where was I? This draft was more about the future is now. The guys we got in 19, the guys we got in 20, the guys we got in 21, and the guys we got in this draft, that's the team, Flores said. You know what I mean? That's the team moving forward. As we move forward, that's going to be the crux or the big chunk of our team. They'll be the reason why we make noise or don't make noise. And I already made a video yesterday with responses to that. Go watch that video. I'm not going to say it again because this video's already super long. And this article is pretty long too. So, but there's a lot to say and I had to respond to some of this shit. They'll be there. Let's see. So in 2019, the Dolphins might have moved from 3 to 12 and kept all their future ones instead of trading a 1 to move back up to 6. I think there's a typo there. If they picked right, Miami could have 6 starters on offense from the last 2 drafts. Also, again, people want to be like, oh man, they got 4 potential starters. Yeah, but if your team was shit to begin with, and the bar is set super fucking low, starters are not fucking all you need, man. You need high quality fucking starting players, bro. You need to be able to draft some superstars, and they haven't drafted one yet. Not one player that you can reasonably say is going to turn into a superstar, right? Because even as much as Jalen Phillips has amazing potential, it's so likely that his career is going to be derailed by injuries. There is a super high probability of that. But of course, people just want to fucking ignore that and just give these guys, Greer and Flores, like all of the credit in the world, praise them as gods for grabbing a guy and getting a guy at 18 with all of that potential, no matter what. But then of course, if and when it does happen that his career gets derailed by injuries, people will flip on a fucking dime. It's fucking outrageous. Jesus, if they picked right, Miami could have 6 starters on the offense from the last 2 drafts. Waddle, Tua, and 4 of the 5 starters up front. 2020 picks Austin Jackson, Robert Hunt at right tackle, Jackson at left tackle, Solomon Kindley at right guard, and highly regarded 2021 second rounder Liam Eichenberg from Notre Dame, who will probably get a shot at left guard. A lot of the reports are that he'll probably get a tackle position, but whatever. Either way, that offensive line, okay, they got starters, bro, but starters, having bodies in there is not all it's about, right? Like, you got to have the right bodies. And sure, having versatility on that offensive line is great, but you got to get guys cemented in those positions, and you don't, like, almost none of those positions are solidified. And certainly not solidified with players that you know are going to be consistent, high-level quality players. You hope that they're gonna be, but again, it's so many gambles because, I mean, whatever. Like, I've said it a million times, people don't listen. On defense, they'll need more help from free agents in the last 2 crops. Byron Jones must play better at corner. Pass rusher Emmanuel Ogbah will have a bookend helper now in the 18th pick in the draft. Jalen Phillips, and just signed expat Jason McCourty, comes off a very good 2020 season to buttress the corner. That's debatable, and he's definitely in decline overall. But also, I mean, and of course, though, says need more help from free agents in the last 2 crops. Okay, that's true. And these guys are, especially Byron Jones, overpaid for what you're going to get. You're not going to get more than what you got out of Byron Jones last year. He's not all of a sudden going to start bringing down all kinds of interceptions because he's not that kind of guy. He's just not. Okay, but it also leaves out the fact that they also got rid of Kyle Van Noy, Shaq Lawson, Jordan Howard, a bunch of these other big free agents that they brought in last year because they're terrible at evaluating. Because they don't know what the fuck they're doing, and they also don't know how to develop players. On Friday, I asked one of NFL's biggest wheeler dealers of recent times, Jimmy Johnson, what he thought of the team Greer has produced. I like his trades. I like his picks, Johnson said. Oh, great. Some super old dude that lived in a completely different time period where things were done way fucking different thinks they're doing great. I gotta be honest with you. I just don't care. I just don't care. I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck what Jimmy Johnson has to say. Like, but okay, whatever. People are gonna look at that and be like, oh my god, but it's Jimmy Johnson, bro! And he agrees with me and thinks that the Dolphins are doing great. You can't fucking say bad things about Jimmy Johnson. I'm not actually really even saying anything bad about him. I'm just simply saying I don't give a fuck about what he has to say, right? Like, okay, I like his approach. I used to say, do you want to play it safe and be good, or do you want to take chances and try to be great? Bro, again, I mean, that's a super simplistic way of putting it, though. Because I'm all about being aggressive and taking some chances and whatever, but you gotta do it smart. And overall, yes, I actually do generally take a much more cautious, I guess, if you will, approach. I just like to be well balanced, and I don't like to fucking take constant risks. I don't like to fucking have my entire playbook be risk after risk after risk. But you gotta win. Time will tell. Flores won't argue. He said, trades are great, picks are great, but we don't want to be known as a great trading team. We're here to win. But that's what people are giving them praise for, right? And they're unduly giving them fucking way more praise than they should for the 10-6. What people should be saying is man, they really overachieved last year and got to 10-6. But they did get 5 more wins than the tank season. And, we still have to wait and see how everything plays out with their draft picks, even though, they've already cut 3 players from the first 2 and so on and so forth. But, let's see what they do this year. Can they actually take steps forward? Can the offense take a step forward? Can they prevent the defense from taking a step back, even though they've cut several players already from that defense last year and could cut more and could potentially cut more of their own fucking drafted players? Right? Like, can they actually do those things? But you have to also be realistic about all the rest of it. The biggest variable for now, for Miami now, of course, is Tagovailoa, the 5th pick in the 2020 draft, coming off a so-so rookie year in which he was benched twice in shaky second halves. Miami picked him one slot ahead of Justin Herbert last April. Herbert finished his first season as a Charger with the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Tagovailoa finished his first season with questions surrounding his ability to be Miami's long-term starter. And again, that's their fault for putting him in to begin with, especially when the starting quarterback you had was doing just fine and wasn't injured. He was playing really well and was not injured. And I guarantee you that Ryan Fitzpatrick could have remained the starter and we still could have gone 10-6. Because a large part of the reason why we went 10-6 is because they got to beat up on teams that were decimated by injuries that they shouldn't have been able to beat up on like that. It's fucking ridiculous. That's probably not fair. Most often, quarterbacks don't play as great as rookies. Herbert and 2020 top pick Joe Burrow playing like vets from the start spoiled it for Tagovailoa. No, the Dolphins putting him in a shitty situation and then throwing him into the fire when he wasn't ready spoiled it for Tua Tagovailoa. It's true that people will make unfair comparisons to him and the other quarterbacks, especially considering the reason why they will be unfair is mostly because they will leave out important context, not everybody, but most people will, about the situations that they were in and the decisions that were made around those quarterbacks. But there's much riding on Tagovailoa for Greer. Miami built a war chest of picks to be able to draft a quarterback, and if Tagovailoa is not the guy, it'll set the rebuild back significantly and force Miami to use more draft capital on a quarterback, likely in 2023. I never like to put it on one player, Flores said. I think we got a lot of young players, and we're looking for all those players as well as really everyone on our team to prove in a variety of ways. I'm sorry, I just got to call straight bullshit, though. Because if that was the case, then you wouldn't have adopted the philosophy of tank 2019 to go for Tua, because Herbert was one pick after them. They could have picked Herbert, the guy who's more prototypical for the NFL, the guy who doesn't have, you know, such an injury history, right? Like, I mean, there's so many. Anyway, you literally did that. You literally did that. They tanked an entire football season to go get one guy. And then that's also why they then reached for Austin Jackson and these other guys as solutions to the offensive line when they're not going to prove to be the solutions on the offensive line when the thing is all said and done. I'm telling you, I hope I'm wrong, but I'm not betting on it. Let's see. I think we got along. Those players are really, if they're putting all the work in, I expect them to improve, get better, and perform better. Tua's obviously at the top of that list. Yeah, okay, you can have that expectation, but one, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen. And two, you're a large part of that, dude. I don't know if you know this, but you're the fucking head coach. You have to be able to develop them. You got to have some consistency in your coaching staff and not be fucking trading out people every fucking year. You got to actually start getting some consistency on your roster. You got to make sure that you identify fucking players who are going to get to the point where they're rocks at their positions on the offensive line. And you've failed miserably so far at all of that. Let's see. He's been working. All signs point to, or I would say based on my experience, he's doing everything necessary to make some improvements. Wow, bro. I mean, I'm stunned by your vehemence and your passion when talking about this. Like, get the fuck out of here, bro. That's really all we can ask for. Many things is if you put the work in, the results will take care. My thing is, if you put the work in, the results will take care of themselves. Okay, bro. Last year's situation, as we talked about this numerous times, if we had started the season, we wouldn't have pulled him. Okay, and here is where I'm calling complete fucking bullshit. Are you kidding me? Who in their right mind thinks that, especially with the way that the year went on, they benched Ryan Fitzpatrick for no reason, threw Tua into the fire when he wasn't ready, literally benched him twice after that. Who thinks that if they would have put him in a few games earlier or the fucking first game of the season, that he wouldn't have gotten benched and they just would have let him in or left him in no matter what? That's absurd. That's absurd. Not only that, but because the dude also sustained 2 injuries that kept him out a little bit. Are you kidding me? And he wouldn't have performed any better when they did put him in. He knew, there were reports out that were saying that he only knew about 40% of the playbook at that point. How much do you think he would have known of the playbook day 1, game 1 of the season? Probably not 0, but far less than 40. Who thinks that he would have performed any better? And who thinks that he wouldn't at some, especially then, because then he says, we put him in. We're in a playoff chase. At that point, second half in game 15 at Las Vegas when Fitzpatrick entered in relief, it's, hey, we've got to do whatever we've got to do to try and win. But no, my confidence wasn't shaken in him. Okay, but these 2 statements are contradictory. You cannot say that you would have put him in game 1 and never taken him out, and then say, but oh hey, you know, in game 15, when he wasn't performing and we benched him, it was because we felt that we needed to do what was necessary for the team to win. It's contradictory because you were then admitting that there was a situation and circumstance in which he wasn't the option and you were forced to switch to the option that was. It's absurd. It's ludicrous. And none of it makes any goddamn sense. There is no logical continuity in there whatsoever. But people will look at this dude like he's some fucking genius and knows what the fuck he's doing. Okay. 2 other points. Continuing education. Greer and Flores have brain-picked with GMs across leagues. Greer learned from his dad, former Patriots personnel man Bobby Greer, and one of his bosses in Miami, Bill Parcells, but also from baseball GMs Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer, and several NHL GMs. Great. I mean, Jesus Christ. Flores has gotten to know Miami Heat execs and learned from Oklahoma City GM Sam Presti and an assistant GM with the Nets, Andy Birdsong. Look, bro, man, I gotta say this. Here's another thing I just don't care about. I don't care about them talking to their other rich, privileged buddies at the head of other sports leagues or teams of other sports leagues. This is football, bro. Way different. Those sports are way different in so many ways. It's the same reason as why I said fucking back at the beginning of COVID that the protocols and shit are way different for football, and a bubble's not gonna work for football because they're way different fucking sports. Anyway, I'm not gonna go into all that. I don't care. Anyway. There's a balance there and a place we're trying to get to, somewhere in the middle, Flores said. That place this year is trying to build for today, but it's a balancing act, knowing when to go for it and when to build. Birdstrong said, when I talk to Brian, we talk about not missing a moment. There are different moments, the draft, free agency, trades. Your job is to collect additional information so you'll be able to stand behind any decision you make so your actions can match your beliefs. Okay. And sure, that's true, but again, you have to be smart about it, and your core beliefs have to be good too. And I don't believe their core beliefs are good at all. Again, if you're gonna adopt the philosophy to tank 2019, you're shit. If you're just gonna fucking follow the stupid marching orders of Stephen Ross, you're shit. Like, get out of here, bro. Brian's background has prepared him for this moment. That background gives him the ability to be exactly what a coach needs to be today. He respects the job of the general manager because he's been in scouting. Yay. The Tunsil trade. The Dolphins and EVP of football operations Mike Tannenbaum parted ways after the 2018 season. Though Greer was appointed GM in 2016, Tannenbaum was heavily involved in football decisions from 16 to 18. That's why I drew the line of demarcation at January 2019 for Greer having full control of the personnel side. Yes, okay, and that's fine, a good fine part of the context, especially when you understand that Greer takes his marching orders from whoever is his boss at the time. Most of the time, even with Tannenbaum, it was primarily Ross, because Tannenbaum was still taking marching orders from Ross. So was Philbin, right? Anyway, whatever. Let's see. No. Greer's first big deal in 2019 came on September 1st when he traded tackle Laramie Tunsil. Team observers say Miami wasn't thrilled about throwing a big second contract at Tunsil, which would have been coming a year later, and wideout Kenny Stills to Houston for a package that included first-round picks in 2020 and 2021 and a second-round pick in 2021. Houston was desperate for a left tackle, so the leverage was on Miami's side. And everybody says they won that trade. I completely disagree. I think they lost that trade, just like damn near every other trade they've done. So far, that trade looks like this, with secondary trades factored in. Tunsil and Stills for first-round corner Noah Igbenogany. Again, I don't look at that as a win. And fourth-round guard Solomon Kinley in 2020. Don't look at that as a win. First-round receiver Jalen Waddle, who cost 2 first-round picks. And second-round defensive back Javon Holland in 2021. I don't look at any of this as a win. A third-round pick from San Francisco in 2022 and a first-round pick from San Francisco in 2023. Again, those picks won't matter if they get, and they won't be using them if they get fired at the end of this year because they don't meet the lofty expectations that Stephen Ross has set for them. Those future picks could be vital if Tagovailoa isn't the answer at quarterback. It's the gift that keeps on giving. That's what people keep saying. I'm telling you, man, people are going to look at this as just as and a few years from now, people are going to look back at this as just some really elaborate way to fuck things up. It's but for it to be a treasure trove, at least 3 of those players need to be stalwarts. It's too early to pass judgment now, which, to be fair, it is too early to pass complete judgment. You can only pass judgment on what they've shown so far. So that applies to the first 2 draft classes. And it also, and based off of, you know, there is some other contextual information that is important, right? Projections are part of that. You know, whether a player is reached for, what the compensation is. It is nuanced, and there is a lot that goes into it. And so, yes, you can't fully say, but I'm telling you, man, in a few years from now, and this is what would make, you know, this is what, whether I'm good at it or not, this is what makes good GMs, executives, and whatever. And being able to not see the future, but understand how things are going to be able to play out logically based off of the decisions that you make. Anyway, of course, but the one benefit I see of the Holland pick, 36th overall this year, is that it allowed Miami, after addressing a safety need, to move up to the 42nd to pick Eichenberg, which again I wouldn't have done. Definitely not for him. I would have took Miners at 50 after taking Sewell at 6 and Greg Rousseau at 18, and then Richie Grant at fucking 36. The Tunsil deal, the Tagovailoa pick last year, and this year's 3rd pick have set the table for Miami to challenge Buffalo and perhaps New England in the AFC East. The crops have been planted, now we wait for the harvest. Bro, I'm asking though, what happens if they're not that? I'm telling you, what if they don't meet 10 wins? What if they only get 6 or 7 wins and are like 3rd in the division? Or last in the division? I'm just saying. The 11 newsmakers and news topics of the week. The 2021 schedule, a few things to keep in mind with the schedule release coming Wednesday evening. The opener, Tampa Bay, gets to open at home on Thursday, September 9th, with the 2020 champs beginning 2021 with basically the exact same roster. My prediction, the foe will be either Buffalo or Dallas. Anyway, I'm actually not even going to get into a lot of the rest of this stuff. I mean, he goes into Aaron Rodgers, vaccinated players, Rob Gronkowski, Tim Tebow, off-season workouts, whatever, a bunch of other bullshit. I think we've really reached the end of what we need to discuss for this article and the things that were said in it. And this video was super long, and I'm pretty sure nobody's going to watch it. So there is that. Anyway, I said what I had to say. I mean, it's all of this is ludicrous. And again, no matter what, at the end of the day, I'm telling you, this is what I know for sure. This year is everything, especially with the expectations that are being set on this team and with the way that everybody is praising Greer and Flores for the job that they're doing. This is the year. If they do not have 10 plus wins, compete within the division, and make it to the playoffs, it will be considered a disappointing season by everybody, including Stephen Ross, the guy in charge, and he will not bring them back because he's getting too old and too desperate, and he's going to feel that these guys are not the guys to actually get it done. and he's gonna move on because he doesn't want to waste time. Anyway, so that's what I got. I'm gonna get out of here. Hope you guys appreciate my perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. Of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.